The tires of my Honda Civic screech against the pavement as I swerve into the parking lot of First Baptist Church on Red River Street. My heart hammers against my ribs, each beat a painful reminder that I should be in a hospital bed, not frantically searching for my son. The afternoon sun beats down on the windshield, momentarily blinding me as I throw the car into park. Reverend Brown stands on the church steps, his tall frame casting a long shadow. Beside him, clutching a worn teddy bear, is Caleb, my son. My 7-year-old baby with tears streaming down his face. I fling open the car door and stumble out, my hospital gown flapping beneath Evan's hastily loaned jacket. The IV bruise on my arm throbs as I rush forward. "Caleb!" I call, my voice breaking. His small face crumples when he sees me. He bolts down the steps, teddy bear bouncing against his leg, and crashes into my arms. I drop to my knees, ignoring the bite of concrete through the thin hospital gown, and pull him tight against me. "Mommy," he sobs, his little body trembling. "Grandma and Grandpa said you didn't want me anymore." The words hit like a physical blow. I pull back just enough to see his face, to wipe away the tears with my thumbs. "What did they tell you, sweetheart?" His lower lip quivers. "They said you picked the new baby instead of me, that you told them to take me away." White-hot rage courses through my veins, momentarily drowning out the pain of my still contracting uterus. I press my forehead against his, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. "Listen to me, Caleb, that is not true. Not one word of it is true." Hours earlier, I had been in a hospital bed, sweat pouring down my face as another contraction ripped through me. The nurse had just confirmed I was fully dilated. My phone was pressed to my ear, my parents' number on the screen. "Mom," I had gasped between contractions. "I'm crowning here. Can you please get Caleb from school? Evan's stuck in traffic coming from the airport." "Of course, honey," Mom had replied, her voice oddly detached. "Don't worry about a thing." Now Reverend Brown approaches us slowly, his face a mask of concern. "Mrs. Mitchell," he says, "your parents dropped Caleb off about an hour ago. They said there was a family emergency and asked if we could watch him until someone came." They didn't mention. He glances down at my hospital gown at the obvious signs that I'd just given birth. "May I see the security footage?" I ask, my nurse's training kicking in, seeking evidence, documentation. Inside the church office, Caleb sits with the secretary who offers him apple juice and cookies. I stand behind Reverend Brown as he cues up the footage on a desktop monitor. The timestamp reads 2:17 p.m. My parents' silver Buick pulls up to the curb. Dad gets out, opens the back door. Caleb climbs out, backpack and teddy bear in tow. No lingering hug. No comforting words. Dad simply ushers him toward the church steps where Reverend Brown greets them. A brief exchange of words, Dad gesturing emphatically. Then he returns to the car, and they drive away. Just drive away. I fumble for my phone, dial my mother's number with shaking fingers. It rings once before disconnecting. I try again, straight to voicemail. I try my father's phone, the same. "They blocked me," I whisper, disbelief washing over me. A text notification appears on my screen, from Dad's number. "You picked money over family. Now you know what it feels like to lose one." The room spins. Money over family? The $60,000 loan Justin had demanded for his failing business venture. The money Evan and I didn't have enough without emptying Caleb's college fund and the savings for the baby's delivery. My phone buzzes with an incoming call. Evan. "I've got Emily," he says, his voice tight with worry. "The nurses are freaking out. Where are you?" "First Baptist. I manage. My parents abandoned Caleb here. Told him I didn't want him anymore." A sharp intake of breath from Evan. "I'm coming now." 20 minutes later, Evan's SUV pulls up. He rushes in carrying our newborn daughter, Emily, still wrapped in her hospital blanket. He hands her to me with gentle care, then kneels to embrace Caleb. I stand in the church foyer, hospital gown stained with postpartum blood, newborn daughter in my arms, watching my husband comfort our devastated son. I think of all the times I've made excuses for my parents' behavior, all the times I've swallowed their criticism and manipulation for the sake of family. I look down at Caleb's tear-stained face, then at Emily's perfect, sleeping one. No one will ever hurt you like this again. I promise them both, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. Not even family. Some wounds cut too deep for forgiveness. Some betrayals can never be undone. And some calls, like the one I'm about to make to a lawyer, are absolutely right. At the present, the sunlight filtering through our Muller neighborhood home's kitchen window does nothing to warm the chill that settled in my bones this past week. I rock Emily against my chest, her tiny fingers curled around my pinky as I watch Caleb. He sits hunched at the coffee table, crayon gripped too tight in his small fist, drawing with the kind of quiet that no 7-year-old should possess. "Buddy, you want some apple slices?" I ask. He shakes his head without looking up. The blue crayon snaps between his fingers. At the kitchen table, Evan mutters under his breath, papers spread across the oak surface like accusations. His laptop casts a blue glow on his face as he tabulates numbers, his jaw muscles flexing beneath day-old stubble. "Greer." His voice pulls me from the trance of watching Caleb. "Come look at this." I transfer Emily to her bassinet and cross to the kitchen, bare feet silent against the hardwood. Evan's finger traces a line on his spreadsheet, tapping at a column of red numbers. $19,500, he says. "That's what we've given Justin over the last 3 years. My stomach drops. That can't be right. Every penny documented. The truck loan? That was $8,000. The business investment from last summer? $5,000. And all those small loans in between. The memories flicker in my mind like heat lightning. Justin's desperate phone calls, Dad's pointed comments about helping family, Mom's sighs about my selfish choices. 3 weeks ago, I whisper. The memory envelops me. Justin standing in this same kitchen, baseball cap twisted in his hands, eyes bloodshot. 60,000, he'd pleaded. The logistics startup is struggling, but with this capital injection, we'll turn the corner. Justin, that's Caleb's college fund and Emily's delivery money, I'd explained. We just can't. His face had hardened, hat brim crumpling between white-knuckled fingers. If you don't help me, I'll tell Mom and Dad you've abandoned the family. The threat hanging between us, heavy as a storm cloud. You know how they feel about family loyalty? Now Evan points to another document on his screen. Did you know your parents co-signed Justin's apartment lease? And his new truck loan? The kitchen phone rings, its shrill tones startling Emily. Evan taps the speaker button without checking the caller ID. How dare you choose money over your brother's future? My father's voice fills the kitchen, each word a hammer blow. Evan lunges for the volume control as I glance toward Caleb, who's frozen mid-crayon stroke. Howard, we're not having this conversation right now, Evan says, voice tight. You put Brenda in bed with her blood pressure through the roof? Dad continues. After everything we've done for you, Greer? I reach past Evan and punch the disconnect button. The silence afterward pulses like a bruise. Caleb hasn't moved, his back a rigid line of tension. It's okay, sweetie, I say, moving toward him. Everything's fine. But his eyes tell me he doesn't believe me. Not anymore. Evan retreats to his office, returning minutes later with a determined set to his jaw. My parents are driving down from Dallas. They'll be here tomorrow. Relief floods my chest. George and Mary, with their practical kindness and firm boundaries, are exactly what we need. Sarah called while you were napping, Evan adds. She gave me a number for Jennifer Cole. Apparently, she's the attorney who helped her cousin with that restraining order last year. I rock Emily, who fusses against my shoulder. An attorney? For what? For whatever we need to protect our family. Evan's voice leaves no room for debate. The next morning, we sit across from Jennifer Cole in her austere office. Law degrees frame the wall behind her desk. I twist my wedding ring, the metal warm from constant fidgeting. Let me understand this correctly, Jennifer says, reviewing her notes. Your parents abandoned your 7-year-old son at a church while you were in active labor. They told him you didn't want him anymore, and now they're demanding access to both children and pressuring you about loans to your brother? Put so plainly, the facts land like body blows. They're my parents, I whisper, the words tasting bitter. My fingers trace the edge of her business card. But they abandoned my son when I was giving birth to my daughter. Jennifer's eyes, sharp as surgical instruments, meet mine. Family relationships are complicated, Mrs. Mitchell, but what they did crosses lines that no loving grandparent should approach. She outlines options in clear, precise terms: restraining orders, supervised visitation parameters, documentation requirements. Each possibility both terrifies and strengthens me. On the drive home, Evan reaches across the console to squeeze my hand. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. I stare at the sprawling Texas sky, thinking of Caleb's silent drawings, of Emily's tiny, trusting face, of my parents' easy willingness to weaponize a child's security. When does it end? I ask. When does family loyalty stop being a virtue and start being a prison? Evan's profile is resolute in the afternoon light. When it hurts the family you've built to protect the family you were born into. I nod, decision crystallizing like ice in my veins. The right call isn't always the easy one. Sometimes it's the hardest call of all. Listen to me, Caleb. That is not true. Not one word of it is true. Hours earlier, I had been in a hospital bed, sweat pouring down my face as another contraction ripped through me. The nurse had just confirmed I was fully dilated. My phone was pressed to my ear, my parents' number on the screen. Mom, I had gasped between contractions. I'm crowning here. Can you please get Caleb from school? Evan's stuck in traffic coming from the airport. Of course, honey, Mom had replied, her voice oddly detached. Don't worry about a thing. Now Reverend Brown approaches us slowly, his face a mask of concern. Mrs. Mitchell, he says, your parents dropped Caleb off about an hour ago. They said there was a family emergency and asked if we could watch him until someone came. They didn't mention. He glances down at my hospital gown at the obvious signs that I'd just given birth. May I see the security footage? I ask, my nurse's training kicking in, seeking evidence, documentation. Inside the church office, Caleb sits with the secretary who offers him apple juice and cookies. I stand behind Reverend Brown as he cues up the footage on a desktop monitor. Next day, the pounding on our front door reverberates through the house like thunder. I freeze, bottle halfway to Emily's mouth, her tiny fingers wrapped around my pinky. 3 weeks since her birth, and this is the first morning without Caleb waking up crying. Open this door right now, Greer. My father's voice booms from the porch. Emily's face crumples. I set the bottle down and cradle her closer, my heart hammering against my ribs. I've got it, Evan calls from his home office, already moving toward the door. His face hardens as he passes me, a muscle twitching in his jaw. Through the living room window, I spot Mrs. Dawson from across the street peering through her curtains. 2 doors down, the Harrisons pause their garden work, heads tilted toward our house. Lovely. An audience. Your phone not working? My father stands on our porch, hands on his hips, his face flushed with anger. My mother hovers behind him, her eyes red-rimmed, clutching her purse like it contains something precious. You're not welcome here, Evan says, his voice low and steady. I notice his right hand casually sliding into his pocket where his phone sits. Smart man. I move to stand beside him, Emily secure against my chest. You need to leave. We have rights as grandparents. My father's voice carries down the street. You can't keep our grandchildren from us. Rights? The word tastes bitter on my tongue. Like the right to abandon my 7-year-old at a church when I was giving birth? We didn't abandon him, Mom interjects, her voice wavering. We left him with Reverend Brown. You're twisting everything. Behind me, a floorboard creaks. I turn to see Caleb standing in the hallway, eyes wide with fear, clutching his teddy bear, the same bear he'd been holding at the church. Go to your room, sweetie, I say, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. Remember what we practiced? This is grown-up talk time. He hesitates, then nods and disappears down the hall. I hear his bedroom door close with a soft click. My father jabs his finger toward me. You're being irrational and emotional. This isn't about what happened at the church, this is about the money. The money Justin needed for his failing business, I ask? The $60,000 we don't have unless we empty our children's accounts? Your brother was counting on you, he snaps. Family helps family. Is that what you call what you did to Caleb? Helping family? Mom steps forward, tears spilling down her cheeks. After everything we've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us? Something shifts inside me, a lifetime of guilt and obligation suddenly crystallizing into clarity. I stand taller, squaring my shoulders despite the weight of Emily in my arms. What you call sacrifice, I call obligation. What you did to Caleb was abandonment. You've always been so ungrateful, Dad says, his voice dropping dangerously. We gave you everything. Did you give me security? Unconditional love? The freedom to make my own choices? I shake my head. No, you gave me expectations, guilt, and the constant reminder that I would never measure up to what you wanted. We're leaving, Mom announces, her voice suddenly cold. But this isn't over. You're right about that, Evan says, finally removing his hand from his pocket. And we have this whole conversation recorded. Dad's face pales. You can't. Actually, we can. Texas is a one-party consent state, Evan explains, his voice calm. Now please leave our property before we call the police. They retreat to their car, whispering furiously. The neighbors don't even pretend not to watch anymore. Inside, I collapse onto the couch, cradling Emily close as my hands shake. It's starting, I whisper. What is? Evan sits beside me, his arm around my shoulders. The campaign. My voice sounds hollow even to my own ears. They'll tell everyone how terrible I am, how I'm keeping their grandchildren from them over money. My prediction proves painfully accurate. By afternoon, my phone buzzes with texts from cousins, aunts, uncles, family members I speak to maybe once a year, suddenly concerned about my mental state and poor choices. Aunt Patricia, I can't believe you deny your parents their grandchildren, after everything they've done for you. Uncle Robert, your mother is absolutely devastated. Is this really about that loan? Money over family? Cousin Stephanie, saw your parents' Facebook post. Are you okay? Sounds like postpartum depression might be affecting your judgment. The last one makes me laugh bitterly. I show Evan, who scrolls through Facebook until he finds Ida carefully worded post from my mother, expressing heartbreak over being cruelly separated from her beloved grandchildren by their struggling daughter. They're good, I admit, sinking into the kitchen chair. They've always been good at making themselves the victims. The doorbell rings and I flinch. It's okay, Evan says, checking his phone. It's my parents. George and Mary stand on the porch with suitcases, their faces lined with concern. Mary immediately takes Emily from my arms while George claps Evan on the shoulder. We came as soon as we could, Mary says, bouncing Emily gently. Dallas to Austin in record time. You didn't have to. Yes, we did, George interrupts, setting their bags by the stairs. Family shows up. Real family, not that toxic nonsense your parents are pulling. Their presence unlocks something in me, relief, gratitude, the stunning realization that this is what parents should be, people who show up without demands, who support without conditions. That night, a thunderstorm rolls through Austin. I wake to a particularly loud crack of thunder and instinctively check the baby monitor. Emily sleeps peacefully, but something nags at me. I slip out of bed to check on Caleb. His bed is empty. Panic rises in my throat until I spot the closet door slightly ajar. I open it to find him curled in the corner, teddy bear clutched to his chest, tears streaming down his face. Sweetheart, what are you doing in here? I kneel beside him. Hiding, he whispers, in case Grandpa and Grandma come back to take me away. My heart shatters. I gather him into my arms, feeling his small body tremble against mine. That's not going to happen. Not ever. Promise? His voice is so small. I promise. I rock him gently. Tomorrow we're going to see a special doctor who helps kids talk about scary feelings. Would that be okay? He nods against my shoulder. The next day, in Dr. Richardson's bright office filled with toys and books, Caleb sits at a small table drawing. The pediatric therapist watches him with practiced eyes before turning to me. These drawings show clear signs of abandonment, trauma, and anxiety, she explains quietly, pointing to the figure Caleb has drawn standing apart from the family group. See how he's positioned himself? Separate, alone. I nod, swallowing hard. Can you help him? Yes, she says with conviction, and I'll document everything for your attorney. That evening, Jennifer Cole spreads documents across our dining room table, medical records, the security footage from the church, Dr. Richardson's preliminary assessment, The recorded confrontation from our porch. We're building a solid case for protection, she explains. Their behavior shows a pattern of emotional manipulation and disregard for Caleb's well-being. My phone pings with a notification. Sarah from work has sent a link with the message, "You need to see this." I click it and find myself staring at a GoFundMe page created by my parents. "Help us see our grandchildren again, cruel daughter keeping family apart." They've already raised over $2,000. The final thread of hesitation snaps inside me. I look up at Jennifer, my decision crystallized. "I'm done being manipulated," I tell her, my voice steady and clear. "Let's take this all the way." Monday next week, the conference room at Jennifer Cole's law office smells like lemon polish and determination. I spread hospital records across the polished oak table, while Jennifer arranges security footage stills in precise chronological order. "We need to establish a timeline that leaves zero room for interpretation," Jennifer says, tapping a pen against her legal pad. "The judge needs to see exactly what happened and when." I nod, my fingers tracing the hospital discharge papers. The timestamp reads 2:03 p.m. 14 minutes before my parents abandoned my son at First Baptist. My stomach knots as I remember the feel of Emily crowning, the phone pressed to my ear, begging Mom to pick up Caleb from school. Jennifer slides a USB drive into her laptop. The church security footage appears on screen in black and white clarity. My father's silver Buick pulls up to the curb. Dad exits, opens the back door. Caleb climbs out, clutching his teddy bear and backpack. No hugs, no reassurances, just my father's hand on Caleb's back, pushing him toward the church steps where Reverend Brown waits. Words exchange. Dad returns to the car. They drive away. "Can you enhance the timestamp?" I ask. Jennifer clicks several keys. The numbers in the corner sharpen. 2:17 p.m. "This is damning," she says. "We have medical documentation showing you were in active labor at 2:03 p.m., and by 2:17 p.m., they've abandoned Caleb at the church." I swallow hard, pushing down the bile rising in my throat. They told him I didn't want him anymore, that I chose the new baby over him. Jennifer's eyes flash. "We're adding emotional abuse to the filing." She pulls out another document, Dr. Richardson's psychological evaluation of Caleb. "I've read it so many times I know parts by heart. Patient exhibits clear signs of anxiety, fear of abandonment, and sleep disturbances consistent with acute emotional trauma. I remember finding Caleb curled in his closet during last week's thunderstorm, shaking, convinced Grandma and Grandpa would take him away in the storm. The memory sends fresh rage coursing through me." "What about the financial records?" Jennifer asks. I slide across the folder containing 5 years of bank statements. Each withdrawal, each transfer to Justin highlighted in yellow. Nearly $20,000 over 3 years' money we scraped together from overtime shifts and tax returns. "This establishes a pattern," Jennifer says, examining the statements. "You've consistently supported your family, including your brother, despite modest means. It undermines their claim that you suddenly became selfish or money-obsessed." She assembles everything into a leather portfolio: the hospital records, security footage, Dr. Richardson's evaluation, Reverend Brown's formal statement describing Caleb as clearly abandoned and in distress, and the financial documents showing years of support to Justin. "I'm filing for an emergency restraining order today," Jennifer says. "The hearing is scheduled for Thursday morning." Thursday arrives with a sky the color of bruises. The courthouse looms, all limestone and columns. My parents arrive with their attorney, a pinch-faced woman in a charcoal suit. Justin trails behind them, hands jammed in his pockets, shoulders hunched. Mom spots me across the marble floor and straightens her spine, chin lifting. Dad stares straight ahead, jaw clenched. They look nothing like the parents who taught me to ride a bike, who bandaged skinned knees. They look like strangers. Inside the courtroom, their attorney paints me as a vindictive daughter. "Your Honor, my clients are loving grandparents being cruelly denied access to their grandchildren by a daughter holding financial grudges." Jennifer stands, calm as still water. "Your Honor, we have evidence that directly contradicts that characterization." The security footage plays on the courtroom monitor. My father's face hardens as he watches himself usher Caleb toward the church steps, then leave without a backward glance. Mrs. Mitchell was in active labor at Del Seaton Medical Center at this exact time, Jennifer explains, displaying my hospital records. Her parents abandoned their 7-year-old grandson after telling him his mother didn't want him anymore. The judge's expression changes as she reviews Dr. Richardson's evaluation and Reverend Brown's statement. She peers over her reading glasses at my parents. I'm granting the temporary restraining order, she announces. The respondents are to have no contact with either minor child pending the final hearing. Mom's face crumples. Dad's turns to stone. In the courthouse hallway, as we gather our things, Justin approaches. He looks hollowed out, dark circles beneath his eyes. Greer, I need to tell you something, he says, voice low. I tense, expecting another attack, another demand. They pressured me about the $60,000, he confesses. The business was already failing. I was just their pawn to get to you. The words hit like a physical blow. What? They knew you'd say no. They wanted you to say no. It was a setup. He runs a hand through his hair. I should have told you sooner. I stare at my brother, this stranger with familiar eyes. Why would they do that? Control. They're losing it with you. Your own family, your own life. He swallows hard. I'm willing to testify about their manipulation patterns. It's time I stood up too. I search his face for deception and find only exhaustion and regret. My ally from the enemy, Campion expected, untrustworthy but possibly essential. Why should I believe you now? I ask. You shouldn't, he answers, but the court will. Next week, Jennifer's hand rests on my shoulder, warm and steady. They'll try to provoke you, Greer. Remember what we practiced. Don't give them that power. I nod, smoothing invisible wrinkles from my charcoal pencil skirt. The courthouse hallway buzzes with whispered conversations and the squeak of dress shoes against marble. Through the tall windows, morning sunlight slants across the floor in golden rectangles. I've got this, I tell her, though my stomach twists like I've swallowed barbed wire. The courtroom doors open. My parents enter a spectacle designed for maximum sympathy. Dad pushes Uncle Walter in a wheelchair, his oxygen tank hissing softly. Mom guides Aunt Louise in another chair, her arthritic hands clutching a rosary. 4 elderly cousins I haven't seen in years trail behind them, all wearing expressions of wounded righteousness. Subtle, Evan mutters beside me. Jennifer's lips thin. Oldest trick in the book. We take our seats. The judge enters, and the proceedings begin with the sterile formality of legal rituals. I focus on my breathing 4 counts in, 4 counts out, just as Dr. Richardson taught Caleb for his anxiety attacks. Then Justin takes the stand. My brother looks 10 years older than his 36 years, his shoulders hunched beneath his navy suit. When he speaks, his voice carries unexpected strength. My parents have used money and family obligation as weapons for years. Justin stares directly at them. They trained us to believe love came with conditions. Greer was expected to be perfect. I was allowed to fail repeatedly. Mom's face contorts with rage. Dad scribbles furiously on a notepad, pushing it toward their attorney. Their lawyer rises, adjusting his tie. Isn't it true you've borrowed thousands from your sister? Your testimony is bought. A flash of shame crosses Justin's face, but he squares his shoulders. Yes, I owe her money. That's why my testimony means more. I'm here despite that. Because the truth matters more than what I owe her. The courtroom rustles with whispers. Justin catches my eye as he leaves the stand. For the first time in years, I see my actual brother, not the manipulated pawn he became. Jennifer stands, tablet in hand. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit C. The overhead screen flickers to life. My father's text message appears, magnified for all to see. You picked money over family. Now you know what it feels like to lose one. A collective intake of breath sweeps the room. Uncle Walter removes his oxygen mask to stare at my father. Aunt Louise's rosary beads slip from her fingers, clicking against the floor. When Dad takes the stand, his voice booms with the practiced authority of a man accustomed to being believed. We were teaching her a lesson about family responsibility, he insists, jaw tight with indignation. Sometimes tough love is necessary. Jennifer approaches slowly. So you taught your daughter by abandoning your 7-year-old grandson when she was giving birth? Dad's eyes narrow. Children need discipline. Discipline? Jennifer's voice sharpens. Mr. Anderson, please explain how leaving a frightened child at a church and telling him his mother didn't want him anymore constitutes discipline. You're twisting my words. I'm using your own words from your text message. The judge removes her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose. The lines around her mouth deepen. In 30 years on this bench, I've rarely seen such callous disregard for a child's well-being. When the ruling comes, it falls like hammer blows. 12 months probation, $20,000 fine each, 3-year restraining order prohibiting all contact with minor children. Mom crumples, her sobs theatrical. Dad's face turns scarlet, a vein pulsing at his temple. The judge turns to me. Mrs. Mitchell, would you like to make a statement? I stand, legs steady beneath me. Family isn't a weapon. Love isn't conditional. My children deserve better than what I accepted for years. Outside, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps. I pause at the top, watching my parents push through the crowd toward their car. Wait, I call. They turn, hope flashing across their faces. I descend the steps slowly. You showed me what family isn't. That was your final lesson to me. Dad's mouth opens, but for once, no words emerge. Mom reaches toward me. Greer, please. The word feels clean, like fresh air after a storm. It's over. As they walk away, Aunt Louise approaches, her walker tapping against concrete. We had no idea, honey. We're so sorry we believed them. Uncle Walter nods beside her. All those stories about you being difficult, ungrateful. He shakes his head. We should have asked you directly. Evan appears at my side, his hand finding mine. Justin approaches cautiously, envelope in hand. This is just the beginning. I'll pay back every penny. His voice cracks. And I'll be the brother you deserve. I take the envelope, feeling its weight a first installment, yes, but more importantly, a promise. The sun breaks through clouds, warming my face. For the first time since Caleb was born, I feel the full weight of obligation lift from my shoulders. The road ahead won't be easy, but it's finally mine to choose. Let's go home, I tell Evan as I enter the car. Our children are waiting. At the present, the early morning sun filters through the kitchen blinds, casting golden stripes across the countertop, where I stand mixing pancake batter. My scrubs feel crisp against my skin, the day shift, still a novelty after years of night rotations. From the living room, Caleb's laughter rings out, bright and uninhibited, a sound that 6 months ago seemed lost forever. Mom, Dad says I can help hang the bird feeder after breakfast. I pour batter onto the sizzling griddle, inhaling the sweet aroma. Save some energy for homework later, buddy. Evan appears in the doorway, Emily cradled against his shoulder. My husband's dark hair stands in sleep-tousled spikes, his worn Texas Longhorns t-shirt spattered with formula. Someone refused her bottle until Daddy tried, he says, pressing a kiss against my neck as he passes. Conference call at 10, but I'll take her after so you can nap before your shift. I flip the pancakes, watching the perfect golden circles rise. 6 months ago, I could barely function, racing between hospital shifts, therapy appointments for Caleb, and court appearances. Now, the rhythm of our days feels almost normal. The doorbell chimes. That'll be Mom and Dad, Evan says, meaning his parents. George and Mary Mitchell bustle in bearing grocery bags and wide smiles. They've rented a house 3 streets over, abandoning their Dallas condo to become the grandparents my children deserve. Something smells wonderful, Mary says, placing a container of fresh berries beside me. Her silver hair catches the light as she lifts Emily from Evan's arms. George settles at the table, immediately engaging Caleb about his model airplane. Those wing joints look perfect, Captain. The pancakes sizzle as I add another batch to the griddle, my chest tightening with unexpected emotion. This is what family should feel like: supportive, unconditional, warm. My phone vibrates. A text from Justin. Still on for Sunday dinner? Found vintage airplane decals for Caleb. I type back. Yes, 5 p.m. Bring your appetite. My brother comes monthly now, each visit accompanied by a check toward his debt. He works dispatch at a local logistics company, steady, responsible work. The man who shows up for Sunday dinners bears little resemblance to the desperate figure who once threatened our family stability. Later that afternoon, I stand in our backyard beneath the sprawling pecan tree, untangling a set of copper wind chimes. The metal catches sunlight, sending warm reflections dancing across the grass. Sarah, my fellow nurse, approaches from where she's been helping Evan with the grill. "Beautiful," she says, nodding toward the chimes. "How's Melissa doing? The new nurse you were mentoring?" I thread the thin nylon cord through copper tubes. Better since she established boundaries with her parents. I told her sometimes the strongest thing is knowing when to walk away. "You taught us all that lesson," Sarah says quietly. The breeze lifts my hair as I hang the chimes from a low branch. They tinkle softly, their music a gentle counterpoint to distant laughter from the house. Through the kitchen window, I can see them all: George teaching Caleb to properly set the table, Mary bouncing Emily on her hip, Evan arranging serving dishes, and Justin arriving with a small package tucked under his arm. I remember the tense Sunday dinners of my childhood, where family meant obligation rather than joy, where love came with conditions and loyalty was weaponized. The wind chimes sing above me as I stand in the doorway, watching my true family through the window. Sometimes you have to pull the plug and cut them loose. It's tough, but protecting my family was the right call. The hardest wounds to heal are the ones inflicted by those who should love you most. But as the chimes ring out in the Texas breeze, I understand that family isn't about blood, it's about who remains standing beside you when the storms pass. And who helps you hang wind chimes in the sunshine that follows.